So this happened to me today. This week, I was inspired to search through my bookshelves for anything I could find on unity and just to dwell in that thought this coming Sabbath. And so I haven't picked up my Celtic Daily Light in a few weeks because I've been so busy with my various Celtic Advent books and other things. So I haven't picked this up in a while. By the way, Celtic Daily Light by Ray Simpson, you can actually get all of these daily devotionals on the website of the community of Aidan and Hilda. You can click on it each day and it'll have the reading for the day. So you can get it for free. I really like a paper copy. So I was lucky to find this used one in a bookshop. Anyway, so I grabbed it, and in fact, I didn't pick it up first. I picked up other books first, and then I thought, well, let me see what the reading is for today. And it says, Curtain Calls for Unity. And in fact, yesterday's was The Pleasure of Unity. How wonderful it is, how pleasing for God's people to live together in unity. Psalm 133. So the curtain calls for unity for today. It does speak to Christians and Christian unity. But I think that it's also very important for Christians and for everyone to reach out to others. So what I had first picked up was my book called Followers of the Way by Simon Reed. Simon is a vicar in the Anglican Church, and he's written a few books. He's also a guardian of the community of Aidan and Hilda, so hence I have a lot of books by some of the authors from the community of Aidan and Hilda. We're blessed with quite a few interesting people and scholars and a lot of people who have a lot to give to the community in terms of leading retreats and writing their own books, which contribute to our life. So one of the waymarks is, waymark 9 is to pursue unity. So a waymark is part of our way of life. There are 10 waymarks, and I like to review them each year, and in the coming weeks I'd really like to talk about all the different waymarks and talk a bit more about Celtic Christianity, new monasticism, our dispersed ecumenical monastic community, which is divided by, our geography keeps us apart. However, we are united with our rhythm of prayer and also our rhythm of life with our waymarks. So I cannot get into all of the details in one video. It just won't cover it all. But I'll talk about unity today because I really feel like it's a timely topic. I'm not sure about anyone else out there, but I was crying on Wednesday when there was so much emotion in the air and so much beauty, and I was crying tears of joy and relief and just, you could just feel all the hope and joy returning. I feel like it's one of the things that has been very difficult in these last few years. First of all, in a lot of our countries, including my two countries, the UK and the US, there's been a lot of difficulty and strife in politics, in economics, and also very much so in health. And we're still fighting a pandemic. We still have a long way to go, a long way to go. And more economic uncertainty for the people who are really struggling with the pandemic. But I do feel like the other day was just a really beautiful sort of resurgence of hope, and if we can keep that alive in our hearts, then we stand a chance. We stand a chance at unity. So I'll just read from this book, and this is written for Christians or people who would like to deepen their Christian faith and practice, and maybe then just ponder a little bit about how we could expand this to people who may not be Christian. So waymark 9, pursue unity. Jesus said, I will draw all people to myself, and prayed that his disciples both then and now may all be one. Paul taught that we should all regard ourselves as members of the one body of Christ. The church today is marred by divisions between Eastern and Western traditions, Protestants and Roman Catholics, and many other smaller splits. In the Celtic period, the distinctive feature of these different strands of Christianity were still woven together. The early church in Britain had the emphasis on scripture and mission reflected today by evangelicals, the emphasis on incarnation and sacraments reflected by Catholics, and the emphasis on the Spirit and the Trinity reflected by Pentecostals and Orthodox. It held in balance both the contemplative and the active life. The Celtic missionaries also adapted themselves to the culture, patterns, and practices of the society they sought to reach for Christ. Aidan rejected anything that would make him superior or separate from the people. Hilda was regarded as a spiritual mother by many ordinary people. I find it interesting here, first of all, that he chose to say that the emphasis on incarnation and sacraments reflected by the Catholics, and then saying the emphasis on Spirit and Trinity by Pentecostals and Orthodox. I find that really interesting because I feel like the Trinity is very, very important to Catholics. But I'm not sure if, as an Anglican, he felt differently or feels differently, or whether at the time the emphasis was elsewhere. So let me just have a look at a few more points. The Celtic missionaries. So as Christians traveled around these islands, and this was before Roman Catholicism became the norm, the standard. So Christians were traveling around the islands, and basically they were closer to Catholic. They weren't Pentecostals or anything at that time. They especially Aidan, they adopted a view of working with people, using hospitality, making sure that they could either speak or have people with them who could speak the language of the people that they were trying to talk to. And a lot of times people say, oh, right, Celtic Christianity must have been some sort of mix of Christianity and paganism. And that's not the case. It was more of a, not even melding. It was more of just the fact that they were conversing with each other. And especially because of the Trinity, especially because some of the concepts that came through with the gospel, the good news, the Celtics who were here, the Celts who were already here and practicing their pagan worship, they could actually identify with and agree with quite a lot of the Christian message. And eventually things changed and became more formalized as Roman Christianity took over and took over not only in this country, but Europe. But at the time, this kind of pattern of meeting with people where they're at and converting with hospitality was something that still inspires us today, especially people who love to pursue this sort of Celtic Christian way of life and read and get inspired by these saints, Aidan and Hilda and Cuthbert and dozens and dozens and dozens. So he goes on to say, so our first expression of unity is by making a priority to worship and meet regularly with other members of our own church. So he describes that. So as Christians, I say that we should even go back one step further and talk about unity in our household, because we are a mixed bunch nowadays, where our kids are exposed to so many different things. We marry people who are of different religions or no religion and from different cultures and things. So first, I would say my first order of business is to think about unity within the household and within my family. And secondly, for those who have a church community, to then focus on unity within their own church and participate in that community. Now it's trying times to try to participate in our communities. My church is actually open now, and we have online mass every day, several times a day. But so some of our groups and things like that aren't meeting. I am teaching my first communion class on Zoom, which begins in a couple of days. So in times of trouble like this, we have to do as much as we can to continue that tradition and to continue reaching out to our members. I know lots of churches are having prayer groups and discussion groups and things on Zoom, and making the best that we can out of the situation we're in. And I think in some ways it's a good thing. You know, I keep hearing stories that more people are attending Mass on Zoom rather than, or going to church, you know, sort of being part of church services around the world in various churches and things, more than they would in real life. I don't know if that's true, but you know, that would be really cool if it was, and especially if it resulted in the coming years of people gathering together. So firstly, unity in our homes, and secondly, unity in our own church, and thirdly, I would say, here he has, the next level is commitment to unity between Christians. The exciting thing about learning from the Celtic Christians is that, as I explained in chapter 2, which we haven't read today, they held together the different strands of Christianity, which have now become divided and in some cases institutionalized into a multitude of denominations. Unity is not the same as uniformity. I think that's probably the most important part of this whole chapter. Unity is not the same as uniformity. We don't need to find some way of coming together structurally across the globe, but what we do need is to recognize and affirm each other even when we differ. And I think then the fourth level that we need to think about and think about deeply is unity across, outside of our own religion, outside of Christianity. So for people who are of another religion or no religion or what have you. And for a lot of people, I think nowadays, I mean, I see many, many examples of friends and neighbors and in the media of people who are actually doing a really good job at that level 4 bit, they might not be Christian at all, but are able to reach across to others very, very easily. So some people, it's not necessarily that you can put these in that order and achieve them in that order, as if it's like going to school and earning your next degree. We need to work on all of them at once. And some people may find some of these things easier than others, for sure. In the next few weeks, I would like to talk about a few things. And one is Celtic Christianity a bit. And I'm not an expert. I am not a representative of the Catholic Church. I'm not a representative of the community of Aidan and Hilda, of which I'm a member. I'm just me. I'm just me, Amy, a single mom, trying to just make it in this world and trying to enjoy this life and spread the love of Christ. And I don't know, just, I'm just a work in progress. I'm not an expert. However, I'd like to talk to you about how I approach Celtic Christianity and how I approach life and how I approach the Sabbath. So that's the other thing I'd like to talk a lot about, is Sabbath keeping, and just share some ideas. And I'd love some ideas from others on how they share the Sabbath. And please put that information in the comments so we can have a discussion about it. And it's something I've been doing for many, many years. So I'd really like to share that with everyone as well. I think that I will leave it here for now. I have a very busy day that I have made busy myself, because I am rearranging some furniture. In fact, around me I have piles of papers and craft supplies and things. I'm rearranging some things. Does anybody else feel like it's just, dawning of a new day? I have bright sunshine here. It's all frosty outside, but bright sunshine. I just feel like clearing out the cobwebs, like the literal cobwebs. We get a lot of cobwebs here. Clearing out the cobwebs and just reorganizing stuff. I'm like, literally, I'm trying to get some furniture from upstairs to downstairs and move it around and just have a good old clear out. And yeah, sort of start on my new goals for this year, for this coming year. And I'm very excited about that. So today I'm planning to do that, and sometime on the weekend I'm planning to do that. And for some of the weekend, I keep it aside for Sabbath to read. I do journal often, but sometimes I'm just reading. And I am reading about St. Teresa at the moment. And I've ordered some books from the library. The mobile library is coming the first week of February. So I have lots of Julian of Norwich books coming to me. Yay! I love her and her writings. And yeah, I just feel like I'm starting again. I've worked a few hours as a childminder this morning. I've been out and got a few groceries, just a very few things that we needed. So we have some snacks and food and things for the weekend. We're all set. I'm going to be tidying up, organizing some things, especially in my living room today, my craft supplies. I need to run out to my click and collect to my local fabric store, because I'm picking up some embroidery floss for a stitch along I'm doing, which starts soon. And so that's all my errands. Those are my tasks for today. And I think that I'm hoping it'll be a really good weekend. So I'm going to wish the same for you. I suggest, if you can, take a few minutes to just think about what kinds of things that you would like to focus on for the Sabbath. Because if you don't sit down and actually think about it, make a list, and tick off a few things to prepare yourself. Then you will let the weekend either fill up with other things or you will let it slip away. And it will be full of, I don't know, watching endless Netflix or something like that. And rest is good. And rest is one of the reasons I do this. But if you're not intentional with it, you could just let it slip away. And then Monday morning will come and you'll be like, oh, what did I do with my weekend? So I highly recommend taking a few minutes now, making sure you have some food and snacks in, making sure that you have some entertainment, especially if you have children, and making sure that you take a few minutes, set aside for God, and reconnect and say to God, I'd like to spend some time with you this weekend. How can I open my heart to your word, to your love, and how can I share that with others? And this week, I especially suggest you think about unity and what does that mean? What does that mean for you? And what does that mean for your local community and nationally? And not only that, but any of your concerns or fears, hand them over to God. So your concerns about unity, hand them over to God in your prayers so that God takes that burden and helps you on your journey. I'm going to leave you now so I can get on with my day, and I wish you a good Sabbath. See you soon, and thanks for watching.